Yeah.
Very good. I have 7:36, and at this time, we will call the meeting of King City Commission to order. And with that, Commissioner Potter.
Dear Heavenly Father, we're so grateful to be here. Lord, we just ask that you be with us as we make decisions that affect our community. And Lord, just give us the wisdom that we need. And we love you, and in Christ's name we pray. Amen.
Please stand for the pledge. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, takes us to the approval of the minutes of the special meeting of November 15th, 2023.
There are no changes, so moved to approve.
Second.
Have a motion and second to approve the minutes as written. All in favor signify by raising your right hand. Opposed, like sign. The motion passes. Takes us to item number 5, public comments from interested citizens. Agree.
Nobody signed in yet.
Item number 6, consider and take appropriate action on all matters incident and related to the issuance and sale of City of Canyon, Texas tax and waterworks and sewer system surplus revenue certificates of obligation, Series 2023, including the adoption of ordinance number 1193, authorizing the issuance of such certificates of obligation. Joel.
So if you recall, back in October, y'all agreed to put out the notice of intent for issuing these bonds or these certificates of obligation. And that process has gone through, and this morning the bids were accepted on that, and the winner was selected. So we have with us Jason Hughes from Hilltop Securities, and he's going to present to the commission, and he'll be referring to this bound document that you've got there printed.
Thank you.
How are you, Justin?
I'm doing well, Mayor, Commission members. It's great to be home and be with you. So what I'd like to do is just kind of briefly go through this sale book. So as Joel laid out, we did take bids on those certificates of obligation this morning. I'll go through the bidders and the winning bid on that. Again, going back on October 2nd of this year, you approved a notice of intent to issue the COs, and in that maximum principal amount was $4.5 million. One of the things that we always do for an open market issuance, like what we're talking about here, is we get a credit rating. And so we did talk with Standard & Poor's. They affirmed the credit rating of an A+. The nice thing about that is if you read through the rating report, which is in the back behind tab B, there's really a positive slant to that in the sense that I think that if you continue to see the value growth that you've had with your taxable assessed valuation, if you continue to see improving financial performance as you've had over the last couple of years, and I think we'll see that credit rating increase over time. And obviously as that credit rating goes up, the interest rate goes down. So again, I think that you're moving in the right direction to get that higher in the future.
Vision, I think you have, but is that something you can help us with just over time as we're...
It is. So one of the things that I've talked about with both Joe and Joel is we'll at some point probably coming back to you with some different policies. That's one of the things that Standard & Poor's in particular, they like to see long-term planning, and they like to see policies, written policies that are reviewed by council, or beg your pardon, by commission on an annual basis. So at some point in the future, we'll be coming back with some recommendations for approving those. So. As far as the sale method, we did put these out, the certificates of obligation, via competitive sale. So what we did is basically put it out and we said, okay, any qualified investment bank, please provide bids to us at 10 a.m. on Monday, December 4th. And so as you can see here, we had 8 bidders. Very happy about that. Leading up to this sale, over probably the last 3 months, the competitive sales that I've had have been closer to 3 to 5 bidders. So to see 8 bidders means that you had people that were very interested in purchasing City of Canyon certificates of obligation. So they're very happy with that. And then as you can see there, Robert W. Baird was the winning bidder at a 3.80%, a little over 3.79%. So very happy with that. And two, the other thing is 3 basis points or 3 100ths is how much they beat the second place by. That doesn't sound like much. In my world, that's a huge difference. And so said another way, R.W. Baird was very aggressive in the bid that they provided to the city. So very happy with that. So what we're asking for your approval tonight, the final par amount was $4,365,000. The CO is sold with some premium. The premium covered all of the cost of issuance, and the remaining will go into the construction fund along with the proceeds. So you're going to net the full $4.5 million. So again, that was the amount that the commission approved on first part of October. So you'll net that full 4.5 for project proceeds. Again, that final true interest cost just under 3.8%. And then the other thing is these COs are callable on February 15th, 2033. All that simply means is you told investors, we, the city, can take those away from you if we choose to. We can either pay them off if we have excess funds on hand, or we could refinance them if interest rates are lower, much like you refinance your home mortgage. So the city keeps that flexibility by doing that, by having that call feature there.
Yeah. What date did you say? Is it 10 years?
It's 10 years, yes, sir. February 15th, 2033. So the last couple of pages here, just very quickly, sources and uses of funds. So you see the par amount that we sold, again, $4,365,000. You see that bond premium, and then the nice thing about this is all the cost of issuance associated with issuing the COs are all self-contained. So in other words, they're going to be paid from the issuance cost here before you. And then on the following page, the debt service. So these are 20-year COs. Again, it is a fixed rate subject to your approval tonight. We do have the interest-only payment 2024, and then we start paying full principal and interest. We don't have any kind of ascending debt service or anything like that. It is plain vanilla level annual debt service payments that the city will be making. The other thing that I would point out too is, as you can see there on the bottom right-hand side, $6,636,000. That's the total debt service to be paid. What was in your notice of intent that you approved was a little over $7,050,000. So said another way, interest rates have come down significantly within about the last month or so, and so the interest rate was better, and we beat the projections that you told your citizens. So assuming your approval tonight, Commission, then December 28th is when you'll have that full $4.5 million in CO proceeds. And then you look after that, tab A just has a set of the numbers, which really is kind of what I just went through. And then again, tab B is the rating report from Standard & Poor's, so you can certainly go through that, read through that. And what they're meant to do is just give investors or help them make an informed decision about buying your debt. So someone who may be sitting in New York, San Francisco, Dallas, that doesn't know a ton about Canyon, Texas, can read that third-party report and again, make an informed decision. So with that, I'd certainly be happy to answer any questions you may have, or if you'd like for me to go into any more detail on any of the items, happy to do that as well.
What were we anticipating the rate might be?
At the time that I was running this, I think it was around a 4.5% is what I'd run it at. And again, we've seen interest rates over the last month or so really go down pretty significantly. So it's great timing on the city's part.
I want to thank Joel too. Joel, you did a lot of work on this too, preparing for that and getting all those numbers correct. I know there was some back and forth with Standard & Poor to make sure that we had the numbers right, and you looked at that several times. So thank you for doing that and making sure that was all straight. And then we did a Zoom with Standard & Poor where they interviewed us and talked to us about the community and asked various questions, and Joe were able to provide all the answers right off the bat. And I think that went a long way with Standard & Poor. I mean, and they acted like they were impressed with what we were able to give them at that point in time.
Yes, sir. I agree.
That was good. So, and thank you for helping us do that.
Thank you.
Questions? I move to adopt ordinance number 1193, approving the issuance and sale of the City of Canyon, Texas tax and waterworks and sewer system surplus revenue certificates of obligation, taxable series 2023, in a principal amount not to exceed $4,500,000.
Second.
Have a motion and second. Is there any further discussion?
One thing, if I may interject, it just kind of caught me. The principal amount would just be notated, it's $4,365,000. Because because we had the preliminary amount first, so.
Moved with the
Yes, ma'am.
changes recommended by Jason.
Can you repeat that number?
$4,365,000.
Okay, we'll change the motion to that amount. And all in favor of the motion signify by raising your right hand. Opposed, like sign. The motion passes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I appreciate it.
So, good to see you again.
Good to see you. Thank you.
Okay, takes us to item number 7. Consider and take appropriate action on September 30th, 2023 financial report by Finance Director Joel Wright.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm going to go ahead and present to you a financial statement for the fiscal year ended September 30, 2023. This is really preliminary. This will be basically on our budget basis or really cash basis with some accruals. This will change quite a bit before you get the audited financial statement as we're going through that process of closing out, making year-end accruals. There'll be a number of adjustments made after these financial statements, but I wanted to go ahead and give this to you so you could see where we ended up the fiscal year in comparison to our budget. And some of this we had to get ready quicker to be ready for S&P for that interview that we had, but this is a good look at where we ended up at. So let's start with looking at the balance sheet for the general fund, and this would be the PDF numbered page 2 of that statement, the financial statement. Overall, cash and investments totaled a little over $3,082,000. That is an increase in the general fund of about $463,000. On a side note, last year we had all of the cash in checking accounts, interest-bearing checking accounts. During this fiscal year, we went ahead and did a laddered certificates of obligation investment of excess cash, really anticipating interest rates to come back down quicker than they have. But we missed out on a little bit of interest there, but we do have that laddered, so that just means we've got a combination of short-term and longer-term certificates of obligation so that we don't miss out on higher interest cost, or we don't get stuck with a lower interest cost over a long period of time that allows us to benefit the most based on where the interest rates are moving. So I also want to point out here on the balance sheet the due from other funds, of $1,077,000. You'll notice that's quite a bit less than the balance that was there last year, which was over $2 million. And I just want to recap the history on that. If you recall, back through 2019, the city had let the interfund liability between the golf fund and the general fund grow up to over $3 million. And so we've been working at knocking that down each year as much as possible. We took a big swipe at that in fiscal year ended September 30, 2020, getting that down by over $1 million by doing some interfund transfers. We weren't able to do much to it in 2021 or 2022, but we did absorb it into the utility fund last year at the end of 2022 so that we could start paying it down anytime we had excess cash. And so that's in effect what we've done. We've gotten that down over $1 million since September 30 of 2022. And as of today, that balance is down to $159,000. It'll come back up through the winter time, but hopefully we're getting that eliminated because it's just another burden that keeps us from being able to do some of the things, as I'll explain here in a little bit. The results of operations overall for the general fund, unassigned fund balance is $4.3 million, and that's a decrease of $700,000 from the prior year. So if you go ahead and turn to the schedule of revenues of expenditures and changes in fund balance, I'll explain where that reduction is coming from. Revenues in the general fund, we ended up at $12.8 million. which is about 167,000 under budget. Overall expenditures, we ended up under budget as well by 471,000. And primary contributors to that was capital outlay. If you recall, there were two significant grants that we had budgeted for the fire department, the SAFER grant and also an equipment grant for the oxygen packs that we did not get. So you see the effects of that. We budgeted for revenue that didn't happen, but in that capital outlay line, we also budgeted for the expenditure of that. So that didn't happen either. So that's the main contributors for the variance from budget, both in revenues and expenditures. Sanitation was a little over budget. And the reason for that was due to a couple of things. We had some significant truck repairs. I had to replace the turbo components in two of the trucks. And then also our contract, the cost for our landfill service was over budget quite a bit. And that's just based on per pound cost of hauling trash out there. So I think probably that is the main contributor on that, just volume. The major story on the schedule of revenues expenditures is transfers. So if you look down toward the bottom of the page, you'll see we budgeted for $974,000 to be a supplemental transfer coming in from the utility fund. And we didn't do any of that transfer. And the main reason for that was we didn't have the excess cash available in the utility fund. As I explained earlier, we paid down this interfund liability by over $1 million. And so that's the major contributor there. We also had excessive rainfall back in the early months of the summer, as you may recall. It seems like a distant memory. But that did impact our water revenue, particularly the July 1st bill and the August 1st bill. Those were both down quite a bit from where they normally are. So that, I'm looking at that over the last couple of years, and probably that cost us about $450,000 with that excessive rainfall for that long of a period of time, for those 6 weeks there. So the result for the general fund is a net loss of just under $712,000. Yeah, it's primarily due to the inability to supplement from the utility fund. Which incidentally, that's something S&P, they don't look favorably upon that. We did have to, during that interview, we did have to answer some questions about that. They really like for each fund to be self-sufficient, and Joe explained to him that's just the way they do it here in the Texas Panhandle. I think every community just about does that. Canyon does it significantly and always has. But we are moving away from that in reality, getting where the general fund is more self-sufficient and taking care of its own expenses. And the budget that we have for this current fiscal year, 23-24, we've actually budgeted for quite a bit less than this $974,000. I think it's around $700,000. So long-term, we'd like to get away from needing that supplement from the utility fund, if possible. Let me move on. I'm not going to cover the debt service fund. It hasn't changed much since the last financial statement I've given to you. I do want to cover the CIP general, which is the governmental side of the CIP funds that we have. This is your page 6 in your PDF for the revenues and expenditures. And I just want to highlight there kind of where we're at the end of the fiscal year. We had received contributions of over $700,000. We'd also transferred $282,000 from the general fund. And then all that was spent on the Kylie Heiner Memorial Park, and then also the street extension on 18th Street. So that's the main project being done there in the CIP general fund, and where we're at as of the end of the fiscal year. We still have a little bit to finish out that project, but it'll be completed soon. We move on to are there any questions on the general fund or the governmental fund financials. I'll move on to the water and sewer fund, the utility fund. This is page 9 of the PDF. Just give a similar presentation on that. Total cash and investments there is 1.2 million. That's a decrease of a little over 400,000. So just about all the increase that we saw in the general fund, we see a decrease by about the same amount in the utility fund. Overall, total assets were 2.6 million, and liabilities were 1.6 million. And here I want to point out again, this is the other side of the explanation I was given about the pay down of the interfund liability. The two other funds, this is the utility fund owing the general fund. That was over 2 million at the end of '22. We've paid that down now to just under 923,000. Overall net position increased by about 120,000, so pretty flat year really in total. I'm sorry, the unrestricted net position was ended at 120,000, which is a 730,000 increase. And I'll explain that in the schedule of revenues. Total revenues and the schedule of revenues was a little over 9 million. That was 373,000 under budget. And again, that's due to the water sales being down for those months in early summer. Total operating expenses were 5.6 million, 259,000 over budget. And I did want to explain the major contributors there. We had a number of unbudgeted projects that came up in the way of related to development. So anytime that some of the new businesses that you see going in around town, anytime those are started, there's usually a cost involved to run the utility infrastructure to that business from our main lines. So we had 3 of those that occurred in this fiscal year. We also had several development-related projects that were going on where we incurred engineering costs to review those. So that's the main contributor for that being over budget, is a combination of all those. And then here on the transfers, you see the utility fund side, it's well under budget. We had budgeted for 2.4 million. Transfers out total a little over 1 million, so that's 1.3 million under budget. The net result is 730,000 increase. That results in a net position of 42.9 million. Just real quickly, I'll hit golf. Golf is pretty flat. Total assets were 1.1 million, not much change from last year. Net position is 54,000. There was a net loss overall of 150,000. And again, that's also associated with the unavailability of excess cash in the utility fund, as it also does a supplemental transfer to the golf fund. But overall, pretty consistent. On the CIP funds for the enterprise, we have a utility and a golf CIP fund, and not a lot of activity going on in there yet. The majority of that funding is from the ARPA grants, and we're still waiting for those projects to get started. The 4th Street water distribution, and then also the sewer
Force main.
Force main, thank you. Those 2 projects are getting closer to starting, but we just haven't had to incur much expense. So that you'll see more of that, more activity in both of those funds here in the next fiscal year. Any questions on the financial statements I can answer? Again, this will change somewhat before we see the audited financial on this fiscal year, but I want to go ahead and give this to you so that you can see where we wound up.
So Joel, on the golf, a couple of big splicing contractual, it's 293,000.
Yeah.
Over.
this,
The
yeah.
sales of goods is higher though? Is that?
Yeah, that, if you recall, the cost of sales is in that 293,000, that variance. It's in that supplies and contractual service line items. Oh, I'm sorry, that's not. I don't have an answer right offhand for that. The cost of goods sold was actually over, sale of goods. No, that's right. Supplies and contractual services, that is where the cost of sales is on the financial statements. So anytime he makes a purchase for golf inventory, it goes to that line item for pro shop expense, which is in that supplies and contractual services line item. And again, that hasn't been adjusted for inventory yet. We'll adjust that for September 30. So that may change some, but that would be directly related to the sales of goods being up also.
That makes sense.
So that's over budget, and so directly related. The expense would be over budget as well. Any other questions? If not, that's all I have in the way of presentation on the financial statements.
Move to approve the financial report for the City of Canyon as of September 30th, 2023.
Did you second? I have a motion second to approve the financial report. All in favor, signify by raising your right hand. Opposed, like sign. The motion passes. Item number 8 is consider and take appropriate action on September 30th, 2023 investment report by Finance Director Joel Wright.
Okay, so there are two parts to this, the cash position or reserve report, which is the schedule of cash and cash equivalents, and then also the schedule of secured deposits. A lot of the explanation for this is already explained in what I was telling you from the differences in the balance sheet from year to year. Overall, the total cash position of available cash decreased by $391,000 from the prior fiscal year end, from 4.5 million to 4.1 million. We are, for the general fund, we're 391,000 433,000 under our target of our minimum of 25% of the budgeted operating expenses. On the utility fund side, we're just over, really right at the minimum of 15% of the utility fund operating expenses. So the net result is about 430,000 under the target for overall. Again, a major contributor to that is those water billings, utility billings being down. We would have been close to having that just about there. That's about what the variance was, comparing our July 1 and August 1 billings to prior years.
But that same policies, the policies that Jason was just talking about, right, that are important for us to have and have
Yeah,
those in
absolutely.
place.
That's one of them. The one we don't have is a
Long-term,
range,
yes.
long-term planning policy.
This is a good one to have that we have.
Yes.
And it's also, we have an explanation for that, which is an important thing also. As
Right.
we don't throw our hands up and say, well, we're not sure.
Right.
We're able to point directly to the water sale.
Yeah.
So that's a positive
True.
in this case.
And our budget's growing each year, so the requirement for that cash reserve grows a little bit each year that the budget grows, the overall total budget.
I think it's kind of a given, but I think all of us would really, including you, Joel, would like to see us get to those minimum standards and hold those. I think we've talked about that for a couple of years now. So,
And we constantly get hit with requests weekly, it seems like, for things that we didn't budget for that just come up, that we have no control over.
you know,
Either a
so
major repair.
from that standpoint, I'd like to have a couple million excess in there, just because we know those things are coming.
It's
So
good
a
fiscal
round road
responsibility,
crossing, or, yeah, so.
because you never know what's gonna happen.
Percentage, Joel, is it equate to like a certain amount of months operating expense, or it's just a?
It's generally
just a
2 to
percentage?
3 months
2 to
is
3
what we're
months.
really aiming at in that percentage. So that covers the cash reserve report. The other is the schedule of secured deposits. And this is just to demonstrate that the depository bank that the city has the contract with is pledging securities that are sufficient to secure public funds with. So at the end of September 30, 2023, we had total deposits of 13.1 million. We have FDIC coverage, and then in addition to that, the bank has pledged securities having a market value of 16.8 million. So we're adequately secured as of September 30. And we watch this each month. The bank provides us with a pledged security report at the end of each month, and we can see exactly where we're at on making sure that they're taking care of that in accordance with the contract. That's all I have, unless you have questions.
Move to approve investment report for the city of Canyon as of September 30th, 2023.
Motion second. All in favor signify by raising your right hand. Like sign.
Thank you.
Item number 9, consider and take appropriate action on bids received for a water system extension to serve 22001 US Highway 87 lumberyard property. Dan.
Thank you, Mayor. As y'all are well aware, we have a development going on out there at the old lumberyard, and they need water. And since they're in the city, we're pretty much obligated to serve them with water, so. We need to do a 300-foot bore across Highway 6087 to do that. That's what this project here is about. We received 5 bids, ranging from $151,000 to about $256,000. As you can see on the provided bid tabulation sheet, the low bid was provided by Turkey Creek HDD. HDD stands for Horizontal Directional Drilling, so this is pretty much a contractor that's their specialty, is doing bores. The low bid is $151,382.20 and a contract time of 60 calendar days. Luckily, this came in a little bit under our estimate, which is a good thing. And if you can see on the bid tab sheet, we had 5 bidders, and that's encouraging. You know, it's people are wanting to go back to work again, and makes it a little more competitive. And I think that really helped us on getting the price that we did.
And we're familiar with them. I hadn't heard the name before, and High Plains.
We had Adolfo and I with High Plains and ourselves had a pretty lengthy discussion about this on not having worked with these folks before. But it's a pretty simple project. It's not like a sewer where it has to be on grade or anything like that. It's a relatively simple project. We finally weighed the pros and cons and decided, you know, they were so much cheaper that we thought, why not? It's in their name. That's what they do. Let's give them a shot, and we'll see where it goes from there. We really don't. High Plains went ahead and did some research, you know, about them and stuff, and we feel pretty confident that they can get this project done for us.
Who's the owners? Do you know?
I do not.
Turkey Creek.
And I think we were pleased that there were so many bidders and that there was someone new at the top to give someone else another opportunity. We've got several people tied up right now. So.
Yeah, we got 2 other contractors, you know, trying to get projects going for us as it is.
Correct.
But the utility extensions out to Meyer Park, and then the sewer force main to the farm, so.
And we would like to think too that that they wanted to do work for us. They showed up and they wanted to do work for us, and maybe there's an incentive for them to do really good work for us for the first time they did something for us.
We don't anticipate any problems. There's an agreement with the developer for a 50/50 cost share, which helps also, helps our position anyway. And so about $76,000 each to take care of this. And this project has been in the CIP and it's funded through the CIP, so. We'd recommend the award to go to Turkey Creek HDD and the amount we discussed.
But we will fund this fully, and then those other funds that come back in will go back into the CIP?
That's correct.
I move to award the bid for the water system extension to serve 22001 US Highway 87 Old Lumberyard property to Turkey Creek HDD in the amount of $151,382.20.
Second. One last thing, y'all might notice that it's a 10-inch water line and our normal minimum size is 8. The reason being for that is that this property sits about 10 to 12 feet higher than the tie-in and down there, by the golf course. And we were struggling with 8-inch. We were right on the cusp after modeling it to get them a fire flow. So that's the reason for the one size increase in the pipe, so they make sure and get them a good fire flow. They'll have it's gonna be sprinkled, right, Craig?
Yes.
So that was the main reason for the upsize in the pipe, was to get them the fire flow.
Makes sense.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to get out of the weeds.
All right, do you have a motion second? All in favor of the motion, signify by raising your right hand. Opposed, like sign. Motion passes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dan. All right, item number 10, consider and take appropriate action on survey regarding changing the name of 4th Avenue to University Avenue or memorializing 4th Avenue to University Avenue. Joe is not here. I know we've had several discussions, you can pipe in, John, but I know we've had this before at our meeting. Mayor Pro Tem and I met with, the impetus of this was the university and their request and Dr. Wendler. And so we had a chance to visit with them, and I think, they saw these same results. They see what we're seeing, and, I'm completely honest, and I'd say I think they probably were some disappointed, particularly Dr. Wendler, but at this point, unless somebody else has a good answer as far as how we would move forward or timing or work with, particularly the businesses along 4th Avenue that would be University Avenue. The university, we did, part of the survey in here was, okay, could either change the name or memorialize it, and that's really where everybody was landing on memorializing. Dr. Wendler said, from that standpoint, it would just have a tag on the street sign, and he thought really that would confuse the issue a lot too for folks just GPS. He'd seen that before where he had a couple of names on a street, and he did not care for that. Cody, anything else? Or?
And it was clear from the survey that the property owners on that street were not interested in doing that, just because of the expense, it seemed.
Personally, I don't see moving forward with it, and we don't need any action if we're not, but unless, there was a coalition that came back to us almost, there were some property owners that, some that surprised me. I think Amarillo National Bank, maybe even Wells Fargo, that were voted in favor of the name change. If it were a coalition of business owners that came back and said, hey, we got this plan, we want to do this, for the university, give us a certain time period or so to work through. I think the biggest thing was besides trouble was just the cost and, of going through those changes.
Just changing over.
So we could have a motion on it, but I think at this point, Dr. Wendler and the university understand where the sentiment came in at, so.
So then, once it's brought back.
So just no action there, Gary. I mean, the city won't do anything there. Okay.
We just made an action in case y'all did, you could do that, so you're good, John.
We do appreciate everybody that worked on that, because I know there also was a lot of work that went into that. And
Megan did a
hopefully
lot of
we-
work on that survey.
Megan.
Megan put that together and did a good job. And Gretchen
And I
helped
think,
with that also.
we can relay that back. I think the university understands that too, that we gave it an all-American try there too. All right, then we will move on to item number 11, presentation on housing projections in Canyon and ETJ.
Awesome, thank you. So, excuse me. The previous planning and development director, Danny Cornelius, and our city manager, Joe Price, put together a couple years ago, I think they started in 2019, basically just a 25-year housing projection spreadsheet. You all know as well as I do, we have no idea exactly what's going to happen in the next 25 years. I was talking with Bo about this a little bit because, he uses that too as far as, working through some financial projections and things. And we talked about how it might be easier to guess what the weather might be in 25 years. Obviously, there's a lot of factors that play into this. What we did is just took all of the existing developments that are currently in process, the ones that we've talked about that may be in process, or that are already planned to be in process. We took the concept plans with the total number of units and then either used expected build-outs based on conversations we have with developers or based on best guesses from data from other developments. And we did split it up between the City of Canyon and the ETJ and the county. Really, we added the ETJ and county in a lot of discussions with Stephanie. She's working with business owners and things like that. Those are helpful numbers for her to have as she's talking with businesses. For the City of Canyon, especially Planning and Development Department, I'm looking at this a lot from the perspective of just labor force for the city, at least, on making sure that we have enough people to perform all those inspections. One of the main numbers I look at is the totals after the just initial city developments on a year-over-year in basis, and that number, being over 100, even getting up to 180 in years in the future, depending on some of these developments if they come to fruition in the way that is shown here. So it's really just a rough estimate of what might happen in the future based on land that we do control and some that we do not. So that's our estimate right now. I can already tell you for fiscal year 2024, it has 152 in there as a total. We're not going to get to 152. We just recently had some discussions with the developers of Meyer Park about trying to scale that back down given the market. But 2025, it sounds like might go back up to be a bigger year, depending on what the market plays and getting through an election year. Some things can kind of get back into a more normal rhythm. So it's more of a presentation, just so that you're all kind of up to date on what we foresee happening right now. And like I said, there's already some things I need to go in and update after a meeting we had last Friday. Does anybody have any questions or comments on those? Awesome, that's all I've got.
And we're tracking as much of that as we can. As Lucas said, we're trying to keep up with that. We'll try to keep you all updated. Really trying to keep ourselves internally updated so we know what that means. Every time somebody talks to us, we talk to Adolfo, we talk to ourselves, we talk to Stephanie. We're trying to figure out how to project and how to stay ahead. So maybe we won't have to come to Joel as many times with our hats in. Obviously, that's a burr under his saddle. So we want to try to plan for those things as much as we can. And we know we're still, as Lucas said, guessing some of the times, but it's better to have an educated guess than to sit here and just let things happen to us. So we're really trying to prepare, and Joe has really pushed us that way, and Lucas has picked up on that and has been able to carry on that with us.
I agree, Lucas. I think that's probably a pretty big number for 2024.
Right.
Just with the economy
Right.
and.
I could see maybe half that.
startup line.
Yeah. So I could see us being around 50 or 60 next year. There's still demand. We're still seeing demand for especially single-family housing. I mean, our supply is very low. It's very low. So regardless of the market and everything, people are still wanting to live in this area, especially in the school district, and people are still looking to Canyon as one of the places they'd like to be. So we're going to still see some of that demand. And opening up a lot of lots next year will definitely increase that a little bit.
I don't think we need any action on
Yeah,
that.
they're,
So we're good?
all right. Then item number 12 is to hold public hearing and consider and take appropriate action on ordinance number 1194, an ordinance repealing ordinance number 714 and all other ordinances in conflict herewith, and adding updated and revised zoning regulations and zoning map of the city of Canyon, Texas, providing a severability clause, establishing an effective date, and providing for a penalty for violation. Lucas.
All right. Well, thank you all very much for being here. We are excited to be at this place. I think John started working on this in 2019 with
2018.
with Dan and Erica here, who've joined us tonight from Friesen Nichols. They worked very hard on producing this zoning regulation document. I know I started in this position just over a year ago, which has gone by very quickly. There's been a lot of fun time. And of course, I started looking at it and started asking a bunch of questions, and I'm sure John was really excited to hear that I had some comments and things that I wanted to look at even more and slow the process down again. But no, when I got here a year ago, we decided to kind of tackle subdivision and zoning one at a time, and we started with subdivision and got that done in April. We've been looking at zoning ever since then, so we're really excited to be here. If you live in the city of Canyon, you received a postcard last month from us. There's a new state law requiring us to send that out. We had a really good public meeting following that over at the Cole Community Center on November, I believe that was the 15th, and we had about 25 people there. Robin came, and we had really good discourse with people who came and asked, hey, this is where I live, this is my address, what does this mean for me? So that was really exciting to have that. What I'm going to do is run through a presentation very quickly. This is one that I gave during those, I'm sorry, I'm going to try and get to full screen here. I might not be able to, but that's okay. This is a presentation that I gave during some of our public meetings, and I'm just going to try and run through that very quickly so that you all just have a brief description of the major points in this zoning regulation, some of the major changes that are occurring. So as I said, as a background, we've been working on this for a while. It hasn't had a major overhaul in 40 years. I know Chuck brought his 1999 updated version today to show me, so it was long overdue. It was a key goal in our comprehensive plan that was adopted in 2018, and so we were excited to bring this update. One of the big changes is the changing of the names of the zoning districts. And so I've got a chart here, and this comes directly from the zoning regulations. What we've done is rename all of the existing zoning districts. And it took me a while until I finally talked with Erica that, hey, what are those numbers? Well, those numbers are associated with minimum lot sizes. So it used to be single-family agriculture, now it's single-family 43 because the minimum lot size is 43,000 square feet, which is roughly an acre. Same thing with single-family suburban, now it's single-family 6, we're gonna go to a 6,000 square foot minimum. And we've added some districts in addition to that, and we're trying to make it cleaner and more intuitive for the everyday homeowner or business owner to be able to pull out this document or go online and look at it and be able to really interpret it and use it at home. So one of the big things we did is add the MF2 zone. Mayor, this kind of came out of a question that you had asked when we rezoned a piece of property here in downtown, and we went from single family to our multifamily zone. which means that they can now build a 3-story apartment building on that lot. And you kind of asked about, well, the property owner says they're going to build 2-story, but they could build 3. And so we said, well, why don't we add an additional multifamily zone with a 2-story height maximum? And that'll kind of give another tool, another option for redevelopment or potentially for developers and new neighborhoods to have that townhome style development with that MF2 zone. So now we'll have an option if you're going multifamily with a 2 or 3-story max. So I'm really excited about that, especially as it goes for redevelopment, that we can have some redevelopment in the city of Canyon using that MF2 zone where they're not going to impose on potentially some single-family neighbors. So really excited about that. We removed the I-2 and heavy industrial district because it wasn't in place anywhere in the city of Canyon. We felt like, we're more suited for light industrial with our size and economic value, and so we just went ahead and took that out. We also replaced the flood district to try and remove some confusion. If you look at a flood district, you think that's where the flood zone is, and that was not correct. It was just a district that we had said it will flood here, but it also floods other places. And so we wanted to remove that confusion that, oh, well, I don't live in the flood district. Well, you still might be in the floodplain. And so we just kind of cleared that up to make sure that people don't get confused. As I mentioned, that multifamily too, we're really excited about townhomes. We've had a lot of developers that have come and asked us, hey, we'd like to build townhomes, but they're really kind of hard to fit in your existing zoning regulations. We've seen a lot of planned developments being used just to build townhomes, and that doesn't really meet the requirements of a planned development. And, a PD needs to be used for something unique, something special, and townhomes, are not something like a mixed-use development that requires a PD. And so we were trying to add that zone. We've got some townhomes coming in Meyer Park that's already platted, so we're excited to offer that. And we think it's kind of a hot item right now in the market. We've seen there's a 4-plex out in Canyon East that was really popular. And so I think given the market and everything that's happening, those are easier to finance and they're easier to get into right now for homeowners. So that's exciting. One of the other things we looked at was accessory dwelling units. We've looked at housing affordability in Canyon, and it can be hard for somebody who's lived in Canyon for a while. Their home is around the median value, which is roughly $180,000. That's not enough for them to be able to sell and go buy a new house, given the current market. And so we're trying to provide people with ways that they can increase their property value without having to move. And at the same time, we're in a college town with low housing availability, and we have a lot of aging residents. And so by allowing accessory dwelling units and some of the single-family zones, given that they meet all the restrictions they have to meet, we're able to kind of increase our housing stock and allow for intergenerational living. So mother-in-law can live in the back, or if you feel like your house has outsized you and you're ready for retirement, you could move into the back and rent your home out. There's a lot of options there. So we were really excited. I was interested to see what people thought about this, and the P&Z reacted really well. People from the public thought it was a really good idea. I've had 5 or 6 people in the last few months call and ask, hey, can I build an accessory dwelling unit in my back, or a granny flat, or a mother-in-law quarters? And I had to say, no, not right now, but hopefully, if we can get these regulations passed. And so, that was exciting to be able to have those conversations with some people that are looking to do this for their family members, or to kind of supplement their income. One of the big things we touched with our accessory building regulations that included accessory dwelling units, but also included just sheds, carports. Our zoning board of appeals sees more variance applications for carports and sheds than anything else. And so what we did is took a closer look at the building code and said, okay, well, right now we have a 10-foot separation that the building code does not require. It's just in our zoning code. So let's reduce that. So we went down to 5 feet to try and make it easier for people to put these accessory buildings. Let's treat carports differently than accessory buildings because they're not the same. And covered patios, we're not going to treat the same. Let's allow those to get closer to your home, and so that people can build these things without granting those variances every time. Because as we've all heard, if the rule is always going to be accepted, then maybe we should change the rule. And so that's what we've done, and I know Dan has said that time and time again, especially when it comes to variances. So
That staff has preached that to us for several years. That if everybody wants it a different way, make it a different way. You know, if that's what the public wants, if your rule is not working, then change that. And this is a prime example of where we've said, people don't want it that way, and we couldn't figure out why we had it that way.
Yeah, exactly.
So we've changed it to a way that'll work.
And we made sure that, like I said, we went and looked in the International Building Code and residential codes, and we're meeting all of that. And so we said, if we're gonna meet that, then let's make that our regulation instead of something in excess of. The sign regulations, we've updated. One of the key changes is bench signs. They've been prohibited since 2016. There was an agreement made to allow the existing ones there. That agreement has changed. We met with the owner of all those bench signs, and there's a plan in place right now for those to be removed by September of next year. We don't have a city bus service. A lot of those are on public property, and so we're just trying to clean that up a little bit. And TxDOT also kind of talked with us as they're gonna bring in the sidewalks that those kind of need to be cleared up so that they can use that for their project. So that was exciting. The flutter and flag signs have been updated for specific exceptions. Right now, they're technically not allowed. But what we've been doing is allowing them for 14 days during certain times. And you can have that for 14 days consecutively in a calendar year. So if you want to have a special event or your business is opening and you want to use those little flutter signs, we're saying, okay, enough people are asking to do this, we'll allow them to get that permit once a year. And since we've already been doing that in practice, we're just writing that into the code. And the last thing is that non-conforming signs must be brought into compliance if you're redeveloping your property. And so we talked with P&Z about this for a little while. You know, there's been certain circumstances where we changed our sign ordinances in 2016, and then somebody's remodeling and doing a major re-improvement or tearing the whole building down and building a brand new one, but they're not touching their old sign, and so they get to keep it. And that's kind of hard because that means a new business owner that's starting and doing the same project, they have to meet our new regulations, but the old business owner didn't. And so we're trying to make that a little bit more of an equal process, that if you're going to reinvest over 50% of the market value of your property, then the whole property has to come into conformance with the current regulations. And P&Z was excited to hear that because, that I don't think that previously their intent was that would occur, but it wasn't written in, so we couldn't enforce that. So.
In the sign ordinance, that was a pretty big committee. Was it the P&Z that really went through that for a
over
long
2 years. Yeah, Gary, that was a long, Bill led them through that, and Danny, and we had input from advertisers and different people, and that's why the benches kind of stayed for a while, because there was some input there to do that. But we've kind of worked on through that. And we've had renovation and construction, new construction and things like that, and the sign ordinance seems to be working in that way. Is that?
Yeah, I think that was just the one thing that P&Z felt was missing, and the example would be Wendy's. They took down their entire building and put a new one up, but they got to keep their old sign, and I think that didn't really meet the spirit of what the intention was, and so we're just updating that to say, in that case, it's a new development, but we need to treat it that way. The last thing is looking at the map and the updates here. The main update is switching from the old names to the new names. So those zoning districts did not change in that case. We just changed it to the new names. There are two other main changes that we made to the zoning map. One would be the correction of our Main Street overlay and adding our commercial corridor overlay. And so, as most of you know, we had a Main Street boundary that was incorrect. And so what we've done is reduce that to the actual boundary on file with the state. And then we've replaced the boundary that we did have on 4th and 23rd with a commercial corridor overlay. And those do have the same standards, except we're following state law and not enforcing building material restrictions on 4th and 23rd because we don't have the authority to do so. And so we've still decided that, we value these areas as our commercial corridors. They're our main entrances into the city. And so we still have requirements for bringing the buildings closer to the street, putting parking behind buildings, and trying to still encourage development like we see on the square that's really popular in Canyon, and try and drag that out along our commercial corridors so that we can continue that pattern. The other change is we split the manufacturing home district from the single family 5 patio home district. So previously, that was one district that included narrow lot line, single-family housing, and manufactured homes. And so what we've done here is split that into separate districts, one for patio homes and one for manufactured homes. We've assigned the manufactured home district to 3 areas in the city where those are currently existing in groups. That would be the Canyon Manufactured Home Village, a couple blocks over off of 4th Ave, and then a block on 2nd Ave where there are multiple manufactured homes. And so we've assigned those areas to that manufactured home district. And then the other areas that were zoned for both, we've removed, and it's just for the single-family patio home district now. So those are the 3 changes to that map. And then, of course, we'll bring the map back anytime we add zoning or have a zoning change, anything like that. That map will be updated at that point.
With the new overlay, Lucas, a good example, that's going to be the Tornado Laundry folks there that,
Buff's Legacy, yep, so we worked with Buff Legacy on 5th Ave to say, hey, this is not in effect right now, but this is where we're heading. We're trying to encourage buildings to interact with the street more so that, people walking along the new sidewalks TxDOT is working on can kind of engage with those buildings and put in the parking lot in the back or the side. And they said, hey, we love that idea. We're gonna go ahead and do that. So you can kind of see on their rendering on the sign, or as you drive by now, they've got steel up, which is exciting. You can kind of see how that building's gonna be up on the street with parking, back behind there, or street parking next to them or behind them. And so that's really what we're trying to encourage to like I said, everybody loves the square in Canyon and the blocks around that where the buildings are up on the street. You can kind of go from shop to shop. We're hoping to kind of extend that, at least in a hybrid fashion, along our commercial corridors. So that's all I have for the presentation. If anybody has any questions, I'd love to answer those or ask Dan to answer those, or Erica.
and really, Lucas, the individuals that we met with the other night, everyone's question that I spoke to was associated with, what is it doing to my house?
Mhm.
Is that,
Absolutely.
they were just homeowners and they were just like, so, because that card was very scary. It was almost like we put the poison symbol on it, right? Because it said, something is changing at your house. And we had to put it that way. And as a matter of fact, we could be one of the early people sending those cards out to everybody. And that was an approach that we chose to do to, instead of figuring out who's not affected, we sent it to everybody. So everybody got that card. And it seemed like that went fine the other night.
Your house or my property, or,
Yeah.
that's mainly what
Yes,
them
absolutely.
personally, it was.
A few businesses came that have businesses operating out of old homes on 4th Ave. Hey, is there anything that's gonna change? No,
Okay.
no changes for you. You could rebuild that tomorrow if it were to come down.
But we didn't get a lot of global questions, big.
No.
Lucas, I was going to ask on page 35, it talks about adult-oriented businesses. So they have to be located at a certain distance away from homes and schools. They have to come to us for a special use permit where we're saying they're allowed, but
That's right.
Okay.
So they're allowed by special use permit in the industrial district is how it is. And that's the same. There's no change there from our existing ordinances. And so we decided that was an appropriate process and have carried that into the update. So that means it would go to P&Z first for their recommendation, and then it would come to this body for your recommendation or your decision on that specific use permit.
kind of along that line, the vape shops, which we addressed that here
Yep.
too.
That stayed the same as well.
Okay.
So it's still under a specific use permit
But they
in
can
those
pull
same
into
zones.
zones of retail and all too.
That's right. They have more zones that they can choose from, and that was based on existing businesses of that type. We thought that it was appropriate to use those at the time when that was passed in 2017. That they looked at existing smoke and vape shops and then used those zones to designate for the specific use permits.
One of the concerns we've always had at hearings too, Lucas, has been the manufactured home. We had that in Canyon East. when we were rezoning an area, there was always a concern about, because that was one of the things listed that could go into the zone. We've kind of cleaned that up, is that?
Yeah, that's what the addition of that manufactured home district made it much more clear.
Because on Unit 10 specifically, there was people concerned with that's what's going to be there, because that was an option at that point in time.
That's right.
When we platted that.
Right.
So that option has gone away. It's off the list. And that seems like that's what the majority of the people that were coming during those meetings, that's what they were concerned about, was that. And people would come and say, as a builder or developer, I'm not going to put those there. However, they were on the list of choices, which caused those people to be legitimately concerned about that. But that's moved out of that category.
Yep.
We still have a location for that, which we do need in our community, but
That's right.
it's limited.
What about, and I'm sitting here on the page of the lighting and all.
Okay.
I know we had a person bring in an issue, and it was really in my neighborhood where a light was shining really bright on a house. And so how is that addressed through the lighting here as far as?
Yeah, so it's on page 54, number 2, accident and security lighting. And correct me if I'm wrong, Erica, I believe this applies to all the districts.
Yes.
And it talks about that security lighting, if it's pole mounted and wall mounted above 6 feet, it should be a full cutoff type. So there's an example of what that looks like on page 53. So that means it can only shine down. So if you have a security light above 6 feet. The other thing it talks about a little more for residential yards is B2 on page 54. If a rear security light is mounted higher than 10 feet, it should be directed away from adjacent properties. And so that would be kind of the thing that addresses, I believe, what your
So
question is
if a
here.
homeowner had an issue with that, then they'd basically contact you all and let you know that, they're getting some bright light in, basically.
That's right. That's right, yep. We'd be able to investigate, go through our code process for that.
Dan and Erica, thank y'all. And also, we think we've moved this in the right direction. That the subdivision ordinances, which we've already dealt with, we thought those moved us in the right direction. And we feel like this has moved us in the right direction. For a community our size, which again, we're in the 85th percentile, I think we're doing the right thing. As a professional that has traveled the state, as an award-winning professional, recently award-winning, Planning Legend Award, Dan, at the last APA American
conference,
APA.
It means you're old.
Well, that was, we were younger when we started this project, but you feel good about what we're doing here?
Absolutely. Sorry about the wording on the card. It was scary, but we can thank the legislator for that. It's almost verbatim from that wording. But nevertheless, this is the first city. We work in cities all across the state, and this is the first city of our clients that had to send out the card based on the new September 1 law. But Lucas did a great job at informing and not inflating the idea of it, really explain it. And I think it's brought your code, it's like a car. You can drive a car for a long time, and you've been driving the car on your old ordinance for quite some time. And after a while, it's time to get an update, a new car or major revisions, and that's what's been done here. So it's just a maintenance thing that I think this will serve you well for many years. And be online easier now. It's more electronic.
Absolutely.
A lot of house cleaning things, as Lucas noted, that we just had to take care of, that the legislator blessed us with.
That's right.
But yes, I think it's going to serve you well for many years.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Lucas, Joel, hearing specific concerns, those meetings or builders or developers or anybody?
No, thankfully, with the development community, we kind of addressed a lot of those comments back when we had our meetings December last year. Erica and Dan had come and we had a session for subdivision, we had a session for zoning, and the same people came to both. And obviously, the subdivision was something that was a lot more contentious for the development community. The zoning, we had some comments and questions that we already addressed, and before we kind of went towards our final public outreach period, I had sent questions and this update with any changes that we had made to everybody who had come to that meeting, and nobody got back with any comments, additional comments or edits. So we'd already addressed that prior to putting this out in September.
Carrie.
Other, yeah, that's right. Unless there's other questions. We will go ahead and open up the public hearing then.
Nobody has signed in, Mayor.
Okay. Close the public hearing.
I move to adopt the updated City of Kenyon zoning regulations and map subject to prescribed, and map as presented.
Second.
Have a motion and second to adopt the zoning regulations as presented. Is there any further discussion? All in favor of the motion, signify by raising your right hand. Opposed, like sign. Motion passes.
Silent disco at Lucas's house tonight.
That's right. That's right. Don't wake the baby, but in the backyard,
stay
we
quiet.
can, yeah, get the Christmas lights going.
Thank you, Mayor, and the City of Canyon for allowing us to do this for you. We appreciate all the help staff has given us through the process, and just thank you for letting us serve you.
Thank you all. Appreciate it. All right, item number 13, consider and take appropriate action on resolution number 42-2023, a resolution of the City Commission of the City of Kenyon adopting a Vision Zero policy, providing for an effective date.
Awesome. Well, now that we have adopted the updated zoning regulations, it's time for me to keep working. So we're going to move from subdivision and regulations to streets. A couple years ago, I believe it was 2 years now, as part of the federal bipartisan infrastructure bill, they passed a $5 billion fund called Safe Streets for All. It's a really exciting fund that provides cities with direct assistance for street safety improvements. This is awesome because at the same time we're talking about among staff, the need to look at places where we need sidewalks if they don't exist. A lot of our safe routes to school projects that we came up with were filling in gaps of sidewalks where they're not currently present, potentially looking at bike lanes where we see demand or need to connect WT with downtown or connect schools with each themselves within CISD and the City of Canyon. And so this is an exciting opportunity for the City of Canyon to go out and apply for those funds. The first round happened this past year, and a lot of cities all across the country were funded very well. Even cities our size received funds in the millions for big projects to work on street safety. One of the prerequisites to apply for that funding is to have a safety action plan and to adopt a Vision Zero resolution. And so that's what I'm bringing forward here tonight. Internally, our city thought process is there's the ability to apply for planning funds or implementation funds. We'd like to kind of take care of the planning in-house. We think that our city is at a size and scale that we can take care of that. We've looked at some examples. It'll definitely take some work, but I think that we're at the right scale that we can work on this together in-house and not have to go through the planning request, fund, procure process that could put us behind another year or two. And so we'd like to go ahead and take care of that planning in-house and then go directly to apply for implementation funds. So that is why we're kind of transitioning right into this, at least on my own schedule, of trying to get this Vision Zero resolution started. And then we will start on a safety action plan, which is the prerequisite for applying for that Safe Streets for All funding. And so just a brief description, Vision Zero is a comprehensive approach to road safety that aims to eliminate all traffic fatalities and severe injuries while ensuring that our transportation is safe and accessible for all. It is founded on the principle that every life is valuable and no loss of life on our roads is acceptable. So by adopting this resolution, the City of Canyon is making a commitment to prioritize the safety and well-being of our residents, visitors, and all road users. This policy aligns with the best practices of leading cities worldwide to successfully reduce traffic-related fatalities and injuries. There's a lot of cities across the state of Texas that have adopted these resolutions, and even more that actually did receive planning funds from Safe Streets for All in order to go through the process that we're planning to do in-house. And Amarillo is one of those cities that received a planning grant this fall, so they will be going through this process at the same time, which I'm really excited about because I love to be able to talk with the planners up there and bounce ideas off each other. And, this is a cool opportunity for us to do that kind of at the same time as them. There's a lot of economic and social and quality of life benefits to this policy and to our implementation of these projects that we're going to discover. And so the first step is adopting this resolution, which has a policy that we intend to follow. And in that policy, it lays out the plan of working with interdepartmental. And so Public Works, I'll be working with them, be working with police and fire. And we'll all kind of get together and we'll be the guiding group along with city management, mayor, and whoever from the commission is interested in being a part of this. And then we will also have a citizen action committee that will be formed and we'll probably be reaching out to commission over the next month and try and form that committee next month so that we can start this planning process. And really what that's going to look like is addressing a lot of data that we have available from TxDOT, and I've already looked at the data preliminarily, and every traffic fatality and serious injury happens on system roads in the city of Canyon. So that's something to note, right? So let's take a look at what we can do there. We're going to engage TxDOT as a partner in this process, and I'm excited to see what the things are we can come up with, and at the same time reach out to our citizens and ask them where they feel uncomfortable on our streets and what are the things that would make them feel more comfortable, whether it's driving, walking, biking, or riding e-scooters, because we have those, right? So let's prepare for that. So that's just a brief update and overview of Vision Zero. If anybody has questions, I'd love to answer those.
We should always be considering safety.
Similar to the
for
state,
residents.
always less deaths, Cody, you know, everybody dies, somebody's dying every hour on the highways, right? And the goal is to not do that. Am I correct, right? In that, I don't know what that slogan's called, but I know that advertising campaign is out there. And it's the same thing. We're just
right.
adopting something that's gonna say, we're gonna try to not do that.
In our resolution, we did set a goal of 2035 as our goal date that we'd like to go to zero deaths and serious injuries. And in the last 3 years, we've had 6 deaths. And what this says is that 6 is too many. So let's do what we can and make that 0. And that's exciting to be able to work on that.
Mr. Mayor, I make a motion we adopt resolution 42-2023.
A second.
Motion second to adopt resolution 42-2023. Any further discussion? All in favor of the motion signify by raising your right hand. Opposed, like sign. The motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Item number 14, to consider and take appropriate action on presentation of short-term rental ordinance and future options. John?
This was the cliffhanger that we left y'all with last month. If y'all remember, this was the item that we had to table. So I know everyone's here to find out who shot JR here on this cliffhanger. Short-term rentals, you know, we all know them as Airbnb, so we're just gonna flip through this presentation there. It's gonna talk a little bit about it and what we're trying to do. Remember, we've already purchased we signed a contract with a company that's gonna help us with this, and we'll go through it. Number one, I wanna ask you all some questions tonight for the commission. I wanna make sure that I get your feedback before, I didn't want to come forward with an ordinance and then you all say, hey, let's tweak this and tweak that. I'd like to ask you these questions now so that when we come forward next month, the ordinance is closer. You may still have some changes, but I want it to be closer. And these are things that I know you all will want to weigh in on. What is a short-term rental? Again, it's defined there what it is. It's a residential dwelling unit rented for a period of fewer than 30 consecutive days. So it's not a rent house, it's something fewer than 30 days. It does not include a bed and breakfast, hotels, extended stay hotels, motel, corporate, and venues offering special events. Like if I had a rental and it was associated with this golf course or this event, then that wouldn't necessarily fall into this. In 2022, U.S. short rentals earned over $62 billion in revenue, 25.1% increase over the year, 200 million nights stayed, over 2 million listings received at least one booking. So they're certainly out there. We could do a show of hands. How many people have stayed in a short-term rental over the past few months, years, or whatever? So they're coming there. STR regulations, the current state. Here in Canyon, STRs are required to pay a hotel tax, occupancy tax, to the city of Canyon. Most of that's a walk-in. Down below, they have a couple of people bring those to me. Most people just walk into the business office and are receipted downstairs and pay that. The city relies on STRs to self-report due to the challenge of manual tracking. According to the City of Canyon's current record, we have 22 STRs that have signed up and are paying the hotel occupancy tax. The city budgeted $13,000 in 23-24 to hire service as of R to help us with that, which we're working with currently, trying to finish this ordinance so they can do their work and get started. Estimate from the vendors that we talked to that there could be about 60 STRs in our community, so we could be about 38 short on that. Approximate additional revenue from that, just from those, could be about $45,000. A small STR that I would deal with out of the 22 is bringing in about $1,500 a month. I mean, a year, annually. They're paying $150, maybe $200 a month. Now, we've got some that are booking out well. One lady close to the square is doing very well. She's paying her 7% at about $230 a month. So she's booking quite a few bookings in a month. STR's growth is expected to continue. We know that. STR's, again, current state. We really don't have any data on any specific complaints in town. Code Enforcement, Planning and Development has been unable to tell me of any complaints that they've ever received concerning an STR. Anybody complaining about those things or having a problem with that? Common complaints around the state would be noise ordinances, property maintenance, not keeping up with the property, or parking, too many cars, those type of things. Currently, it's a huge issue in the state of Texas. You have cities such as Plano that have said, we're not going to take any more STRs, no more STRs, because they had a couple of incidents in their community. If you read the newspaper or Texas Tribune, you could see those various types of incidences. And so then all of a sudden, there's this groundswell of people that say, we don't want those, or we don't want those in our neighborhood. I would assume those people also stay in them when they go to San Diego. I'm just jumping to that conclusion. But for some reason, they didn't want them near them. Louisville has flared up in the past couple of weeks. There's been a newspaper about Louisville. Austin has had an issue. The city of Austin, because in John Burns's opinion, the city of Austin typically lets the cat out of the bag almost everything and does everything really big to begin with. And then issues occur and they try to reel that in, and that becomes very complicated to reel in. A city such as Fredericksburg has hundreds in Fredericksburg. And so they are trying to make lots of changes there. And the changes that these folks want to do in these other communities are associated with zoning, zone them in and out of certain communities, only say so many on one street, only doing all these various things, which begin to cause other citizens to say, do you have the right to do that? Can you do that? And that becomes a legislative issue. here in Canyon, currently what we have is voluntary registration with no fee. We have a payment method made in the mail or in person in the business office. We have a manual identification process by staff. The ACM is responsible for identifying, education, and enforcement of all of that. So between my wife and I, we have driven around town. I can go on Airbnb, I can look for a front door. Our community's small enough. Most of us recognize that front door. We know where that is. The map sort of tells me where to go, but the front door, it's like, oh, I know where that is. I still have to drive by there and get the address because the Airbnb doesn't give me an address. Don't attempt to get them online through the registration service because they'll cut you off because you're not supposed to communicate that on Airbnb. I've done that. So it's a complicated process. That's why we asked you previously to allow us to move forward. Why regulate STRs? We can recover some lost revenue. I can tell you that the individuals that have come forward and are voluntary paying their hotel tax would really like the others to also join them. Those that I've spoken to, really, they're in support of what we're trying to do, as long as it brings in their friends to join in playing that. We want to preserve our neighborhood quality, avoid, we haven't had complaints of party houses. Airbnbs close to the University of Texas have been used as party houses. You can see that in Austin paper, and there have been party houses at different locations, and that's what people don't want. We haven't seen that here in Canyon in any way, shape, form, or fashion, so we're not concerned about that at this time. We want to educate. We want education. Our travelers that come in to be educated and know what their emergency resources are here in Canyon, and also that the Airbnbs that they're staying in are safe. We want to advocate for residents' interests, minimize public safety risks, encourage communication between the stakeholders. Our new service will allow a much easier communication between us and the Airbnbs and this per service. And we want to monitor compliance fairly and prepare for any future growth. STR tracking software, Azavar. It will identify the units and monitor compliance, provide one location for STR operators to conduct all business with the city, streamline STR registration, provide a simple two-way communication system, provide 24/7 hotline, and complaint tracking. So if I have a party house going on, I know I can call dispatch, and I know police could have something to do with that, but I'm also going to have a number that I can call to complain about an STR. This is happening here. I'm concerned about that. And we haven't received any of those calls yet. We would still take those calls, but this would be another service that would enable us to do that. And also, should we want them or should we need them, they can provide for an additional fee some auditing services associated with hotels and with STRs. We have no desire to move in that direction now. I am aware of some cities on the coast that are using their services with their hotels because their hotels have not been paying hotel tax. And they need to do that, and these services would help us with that. Regulation spectrum, low, medium, low, moderate, or high. I want you all to help us decide where we want to fall in that spectrum. Regulation, low to moderate. Possible regulations. Registration and annual, biannual permit required along with technology fee. An example might be a $60 registration fee with the $15 technology, so that would be a total of a $75 that would cost for their registration to register for the year.
What's the technology fee?
Because
That's what we put on all of our inspection and permit fees, and that helps us pay for our MyGov software or any of our software services that we use, Laserfish, all that kind of stuff. So it's just the technology fees on top of the inspection is the fee for the inspector to go out. The technology fees helps cover all of our administrative stuff in the office.
so it's just buried in there. It's just part of it.
Just call it one fee?
Yes, that's what we're getting to. Yes, we would. Completion of annual, biannual report, whatever that looks like, with photo upload. So those are some possible requirements. At the time of application, STR owner one of the options could be at a minimum, they provide their information, they go on our, as of our, they fill out their application, that comes to Lucas, they look at that. One of the things we're gonna request is a proof of a good neighbor brochure. Those of you who stayed at some Airbnbs know that some of them have a notebook and tell you useful information. There's useful information we want to include in there, like how to contact the fire and how to contact the police, any kind of emergency type of those situations, we want those to be included in there. Description of, if there's any kind of parking issues in this neighborhood, we could ask for that in their application. Proof of liability insurance, most of them get through Airbnb $1 million policy. We want a proof of that to show that they're covered there. We could move into a moderate to high regulation, which would be an annual fee versus a biannual fee. We could have an initial inspection, or we could have an inspection every year. We could have an inspection on the first time that they apply for a permit, and then we could have a photograph inspection where they check off a form saying, I still have those smoke detectors, I still have those things. We have an app that we can use. They can take a photo of that, they can ship that through Azabar. We can see that they still have those things. Maybe we don't need to do an annual inspection. That changes that fee. I may not need to charge as much for that permit.
What all are you inspecting then? Sounds like smoke
On the
detector.
registration, we would be looking for the smoke detector in the bedrooms, in the main area. We would be looking for a carbon monoxide detector. We would be also looking that on the, help me here, Lucas, it's on the front doors, on the doors. What we don't want is
That there's a deadbolt that you can lock on the back, on the home side. with a key on the outside.
non-key, that you could turn that easily with the deadbolt. You know, there are those people that apply a deadbolt in their house or in locations, and they leave a key in there all the time. Well, we don't want someone staying in an Airbnb where a key could be missing or a key could be taken, and they would not be able to open that deadbolt to get out that door. So it's a general safety inspection. There's like 5 things that we would look for. We've already talked with the fire department related to that. We'll work through that process. We can't call it an inspection, we'll call it other things, but we'll work with them to help us with that process. So that's a really quick spin through there on all of the options and all of the things that we would be able to do. But specifically from you all, I'd like to know if you'd like an annual permit or a biannual. Every 2 years we get a permit. And then what's that permit fee? Our suggestion would be that we come in at $75 to cover that issue. We also know that we believe permitting and them being associated with us, we think we'll help them on business. That's one of the goals of Stephanie also, is that we help those businesses and we help grow those businesses. So by you becoming registered with us and you paying the tax, one of the things, I bet we can bring you a night or two. I bet that our advertising campaigns will give you a night or two. And we feel like that'll be a positive. The hotels will continue to pay their taxes monthly. The smaller Airbnbs will be able to, or the short-term rentals will be able to pay those quarterly. The reason they would pay quarterly, there's an $8 fee to pay online. So we will pass that along to them. They'll pay that quarterly. If they want to pay monthly, they can. We can say, we're going to set it up where they can save money and pay us quarterly on that. And then the inspection process, if you would like us to move forward with a one-time inspection, and then have a paperwork, email, photograph, follow-up inspections after that. If you'd like us to have a 2-year permit and an inspection every other year, whatever you'd like us to do. But I'm coming to you tonight to give you opportunity to weigh in on where you think we need to go with that. Lucas is all about the inspection. And I agree with Lucas,
Having one.
having the
Yeah, just in
inspection.
general.
Yeah.
Yearly or just initial?
We feel like that initial inspection is very important because we're giving them a permit. We're proclaiming like we're giving them a CO. We're saying you can occupy this space. We're saying that this place is a place for people to go. So throwing it out there for you all then.
So your recommendation is looking at a $75 permit,
Yes,
which includes the technology fee in there.
yes.
And we just need to decide, should that be yearly or should that be
Annually or, yes, however you all would like to do that. And then we can talk about the inspections if you're good with the initial permit only being an inspection, and then self-reporting is the term that we've been using for that after that.
No, we're not doing anything now, but if you self-reported, you would know that the smoke alarms or carbon monoxide detectors are working.
No, we would see a photo and they would sign a form for us, which would come in that states that I've tested that and I say this is operational. Modeled a lot of this after College Station. They got a lot of this going on too, and that's kind of where we came from. And everybody looks at it differently. There are some communities are not doing any inspections at all, some are doing it annually, that's why I wanted to give you all that opportunity.
What would the city recommend on the permit? How often?
Lucas, what's your thought on that?
I would say that from a logistics standpoint, an annual permit is easier to keep track of
Correct.
than biannual. But we could also assess it as your initial permit is 75, and then updated permits could be a reduced fee, it could just be a
Again, because we wouldn't have that inspection cost, so we'd be game to do that if we went to the 2-year permit, that might be that 75, and then that may drop down to $30, on that renewal. Without an inspection, would that be all right, Lucas, with you?
My preference would be that we perform an inspection the first time, and
Correct.
and then renewals would just have we use what's it called, Snapshot? What's the app that we've used?
The camera,
Yeah.
yeah.
So in the building safety department, there's an app that we've told contractors they can get that basically, when you take the picture, it puts a date, time, and a location, so that, they're not just taking a picture of theirs at their house. And we've used that app several times. That kind of came on during COVID when we couldn't do all the inspections in person, so a lot of contractors got that app. So that would be my preference, is that the initial inspection is in person, kind of like you mentioned, Gary, so that we could actually test alarms and things like that. And then continuing inspections could just be,
Where would you go
Over the phone.
fee-wise on a renewal?
I think, half,
That's kind of
Makes the
where,
most
that's kind of
sense.
where I was going there.
because we don't have to review everything as much, but we still have to look through those pictures and everything in the system.
So we do that.
Instead of like half, I would say like $40, I like to round things.
Yeah.
Instead of $37.50, that's
Okay, so what, just something we're hearing here would be an annual. First year is 75 with an inspection. Renewals are 40 with a self-inspection.
How often is a hotel inspected?
Currently in the city of Canyon on a complaint basis.
So we're gonna regulate them at a higher rate than we do our hotels?
They have other permits too. Correct me if I'm wrong, like the pool, food, they have other kind of things, maybe not each room. Because that's one of the complaints I had this week, was meeting with a hotelier, was like, it costs us $600 to get a pool. We have to do that every year. So those are different expenses, I guess,
I'm
too.
not concerned about the cost, I'm concerned
Sprinkler
about
system in the
the
hotel.
purpose for the inspection is to make sure that the occupant is safe.
Right.
If you're saying that we're not regulating the hotels, why in the world would we over-regulate the Airbnbs at a different rate.
I think just hotels you would have your sprinkler
Fire alarm.
in a general system that, in that inspection, that system, their system in their hotel is inspected annually by Firehawk, right? Their fire alarm system?
Contractor. Supposed to be.
I mean, living in the residential world, I know we did, but those should be inspected.
But they're self-inspecting that.
By state, by state rules, they have to have that fire alarm and that sprinkler system looked at once a year.
Same regulation for Airbnbs.
No, because typically a house wouldn't have a sprinkler system.
No, because they don't have those in there.
But then also your brand is probably coming in every year and making sure those hotels are keeping up the brand standard or they're going to that too. So if you're a one-off, you won't have that.
I think they're far more inspected than this. Due to those systems and having to keep those systems up.
My concern for the lack of inspection would just be that right now, if there's an Airbnb operating without our permission, and they're not paying their tax, and they don't have something up to safety standards, the city of Canyon is not liable in any way. But if we issue a permit saying that you can operate as a short-term rental, and then there's a safety issue and something happens, my concern would be that we would be in some way liable for that, for not performing. Whereas if we did, we can say, yes, we performed the inspection at the state and everything was up to our standards at that time.
I think it's important.
So, I'm gonna take that kind of, do you want a motion for direction, or do you want to?
Yeah, I'd like if you would give me a motion.
Okay.
For that,
Move to set the fees at $75 per permit, $40 at renewal, and other requirements as presented as one-time inspection initially and then self-reporting for each renewal after that.
So annually?
annual permit, yes.
Annual permit, yes.
So is that a motion?
I think that's a motion.
Second.
Have a motion and a second to move the direction of Robin's motion.
Way to go.
I have a $75 initial permit fee that includes the tech fee, $15, and an in-person inspection with an annual renewal permit of $40 with SNAP self-inspection. Okay.
Okay, thank you. So we'll have that motion second. Is there any further discussion? All in favor of the motion, signify by raising your right hand. Opposed, like sign. Motion passes.
I should have next month, I'll have something, and you may still have changes, but I should have something for you next month.
You know what? I appreciate bringing things in this way sometimes to, when it's new and all take notice. Thank you. All right. The next item is item number 15. Consider and take appropriate action on resolution number 41-2023. Resolution of the City Commission of the City of Canyon, Texas, amending the City of Canyon Personnel Policy Manual, Section 8.04, holiday leave.
Thank you, Mayor. Come to you today to request the addition of an additional holiday on the city's holiday list and amend the Section 804 of holiday leave in the employee manual. As we currently stand, we have 12 holidays. And we are wanting to add June 19th to that list of holidays, bringing us to a total of 13 holidays, paid holidays recognized by the city. To give you a little background on that, that has recently become a recognized holiday on the federal schedule. But more importantly, I did some research with our local government peers, our sister organizations, to include Potter, Randall, and the City of Amarillo, and they also have recently included the recognized holiday for Juneteenth as of 2023. After this, I submitted my agenda item. Berger contacted me back, and they have also recognized Juneteenth as a recognized recognized holiday for their city as well. As you can see further down in the agenda item, it currently places us at 13 total holidays for the year, which puts us in line on par with our sister organization, City of Amarillo. And then as you can see, Randall County with 10 and Potter County with 12 total holidays for their calendar year. So without any further presentation, that concludes mine presentation for you. I welcome any questions we have on this subject and adding the Juneteenth holiday.
So move.
Motion and second. Only discussion I'll add is, this is more liberal than what bankers' holidays are. This is a couple more holidays than we get as bankers. And people talk about bankers' holidays. I think it's very
We're open till 5 though, Gary.
What?
We're open till 5.
Yeah. I'll just.
Well, let's pull the crowd. While you say that, let's pull the crowd. Raise your hand if you've worked on a holiday in here.
I have to.
I'm not sure it's the same word.
Can I
All
just
right,
say?
I just, I think that's the right direction to go,
Absolutely.
but I do think we're taking care of employees and all too. So I think
Absolutely.
that needs to be passed on, recognized too, that this is more holidays than bankers have as far as federal holidays.
They're noted. Thank you very much.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor of the motion signify by raising your right hand. Opposed, like sign. The motion passes.
Our employees do appreciate you.
What's that, Gretchen?
Our employees do appreciate you.
And hopefully, yeah, that's what I'm saying, that folks recognize that is taken care of.
Yes, thank you very much.
And it keeps us competitive in the area for jobs, so.
Item number 16, presentation of capital improvement plan projects.
Yes, thank you. We get to give the fun stuff now. An update to our capital improvement plan and the active projects that we have going on right now. There is a lot to update everybody on, and we're really excited about what's happening. The purpose of the capital improvement plan is to identify and plan for large-scale projects that could potentially place a large demand on our resources. Because of this demand, these projects have to be, they require a lot of forethought, a lot of planning. This includes also some items included in strategic plans, comprehensive plan, downtown master plan. All these, we're making sure that they're included in our capital improvement plan as well. Since the beginning of the CIP in 2021, 10 projects have been completed with a combined cost of over $6.4 million. There are currently 172 projects on our capital improvement plan, 12 of which are currently active and 29 are scheduled to begin in the next 5 years. In order to determine which projects receive priority in timing and resource, each project is ranked according to 9 criteria as set by the commission, which are divided into 2 categories: community and organization. Community criteria are qualitative measurements designed to reflect Canyon's unique values and community, while organization criteria are more directly tied to administrative realities, budget, regulatory mandates, things like that. When looking at the actual scoring, highest possible score is a 45, lowest possible score is a 5. Our top ranked projects right now is the 4th Street ground storage tank. Then after that, the fire department burn house. After that, there are 3 projects that are very related: the main fire station expansion, the fire station 2 renovations, and the fire training field station. After that, there's the construction of the new golf course irrigation system. And then the 5th highest is to replace the portion of the existing water transmission line that is going under I-27. When looking at the full project list, which was also included in the packet, there are some items that have an orange triangle on them. Those are identified as department priorities. They may not have ranked high when scored, but the department heads did want to bring special attention to them because it ranks high on their priorities. And as I begin to look at individual projects, I invite y'all to interrupt me, stop me. If there's any questions y'all have about these projects or anything you'd like to discuss, feel free to stop me. The first set of projects are actually recurring budget amounts for water line and wastewater. If you'll go one up, there you go. Water line replacements. These aren't directly related to any location. They're just amounts that we want included in the CIP plan for when or if the need does arise. Over the next 5 years, we're planning on increasing that amount from a total of $250,000 to $400,000. The $250,000 that was included in the current year budget is actually being reallocated to other projects that have come in over estimated costs, such as the water distribution system extension at FM 2590 in Hunsley. That was an unbudgeted project. That's supports coming from this water line and wastewater line replacement. There's also the Meyer Park Housing Subdivision Utility Extension. That project came in high above our estimates. And then the reconstruction of Brown Road Railroad Approach. Updated estimates are higher than what estimates were before. So these resources we are now reallocating to other projects that need it. Then we have the city facility planning project. There's $100,000 for this. $40,000 has already been paid. $60,000 is still yet to be paid. This is really guiding and analyzing our facility needs as a city, where we are now, where we're going to be, what our needs are. And there's a group now working together to take what has been analyzed to decide what the next step is and where we should go moving forward from the results of this.
That's a committee you all requested, and Joe's contacted them. We haven't met yet. We will soon.
Next project is the force main replacement and upsizing. This is the first project that is supported by ARPA. Bid award was given in September, and construction should be starting soon for this project. Next, we have the Kylie Heiner Playground and the 18th Street extension. This is actually two projects, but we're combined into one. We are actually just waiting on the final payment request from the contractor that will finish off this project for us.
Proverbial punch list, those last items that we're discussing to finish.
Then we have the reconstruction of the Brown Road Railroad Approach. New cost estimates are about $272,632. We had originally budgeted $250,000 in the current year. This is one of those projects where we are reallocating for when this need does arise. We were ready to fulfill that need. Then the replacement of the portion of the existing water transmission line, as I mentioned, that is going under I-27. This coincides with TxDOT's project to expand I-27. There's a 40-year-old water line connecting the North Tower to the pump station at Kim Road. Just that portion under I-27 will be replaced, and TxDOT will be reimbursing the city for the cost of that construction. There are other projects related to that line. We still would like to replace that entire line. It is 40 years old. We would like to have a redundant line in case that current line does fail. There's also another line we'd like to run under I-27 connecting some wells to the Kim Road Pump Station, but this is just related to that one existing line.
And we are reimbursed there because that is a federal project versus over on Hunsley and VFW Road, which we won't be because that's a state project. We just have to move our pipe.
Yes, which is that next project. It's going to cost $123,750 to move that line there at 590 in Hunsley. This project was also bid in September, so construction will be starting very soon for this one. Then we have the Myra Park Housing Subdivision Utility Extension and Oversizing. This is 2 projects, one for the utility extension and one for the oversizing. City will share the cost of the extension with the developer. We'll pull all the cost up front, and then there's an agreed amount that they will be reimbursing the city as they receive permits, with interest on that as well. This was also a project that was awarded in September, so it will be starting soon. This was one that the bid came very high over what we initially estimated. We have $830,000 currently previously funded. $221,700 was included in the current year budget. That leaves $427,830 that has yet to be funded from the city's portion. This is coming from those wastewater lines and other projects that have come in under cost as well.
We talked about the possibility of borrowing some of that, just because we will be repaid back over time.
We haven't
Maybe
discussed.
Joe would throw that out, but.
We haven't at this point, Joel.
No.
Okay.
Haven't discussed. Yeah, this one.
Next project we have that is active is the construction of the golf course irrigation system to be funded by the issuance of certificates of obligation, which was just authorized earlier this meeting. Preparation work, including water storage, water lines, power, some flood provisions, will be begin in spring. We're working on some RFPs now for some of those elements of that project. Actual construction of the irrigation system was awarded in October. The final contract is currently being worked on, and construction should begin next fall.
We're on task, we're online, we have a tight calendar, but we're moving. Thank y'all moving ahead tonight with those bonds. We can start ordering. There are things that need to be ordered early, and they can start doing that.
Then we have the fire department grass rig replacement. Last meeting, we talked about a grant that was awarded to the fire department for this rig of $120,000. We expect the actual full cost to be about $300,000. The fire department is currently working with the vendor to finalize the specifications, so that will give us the final cost. Delivery is expected early next fiscal year. So that will affect not this current year's budget, but next year's budget. Then we have the lumberyard water utility extension, as we discussed earlier this meeting. That bid was just awarded. Including the construction and engineering costs, we expect the total project cost to be somewhere around $188,000. That's $39,000 less than what we budgeted for, so that difference will be available for those other CIP projects that came in over estimates. So next slide, we are looking at active projects that are impacting the city's resources related to the current budget. So of the ones that we just reviewed, the wastewater force main replacements, not included on here because that's ARPA funded. The construction of the golf course irrigation system, that's funded by the COs, so not included on this list. And the fire department grass rig replacement is affecting next fiscal year's budget, so it's not included on this either. So what we're looking at here is the difference between what was budgeted and these costs that are now coming in and how we are covering those costs. The I-27 gateway design we hope to have included with the expansion. That design has been cut. Land easement purchases has been reduced from $50,000 to $10,000. And then the annual water line replacement and wastewater replacement, you see the $125,000 there. So this is facility planning. We still have $60,000 remaining to be paid on that, so that's still the same. The 18th Street extension and Kylie Heiner Memorial Playground, we're still expecting to fully use what we had budgeted this current year for that project. The Brown Road construction, you can see the difference between what was budgeted there. The water distribution system at FM 2590 in Hunsley, you can see it was an unbudgeted amount. So you see that $123,750. And then the difference between the two Myra Park projects there, we had budgeted this year's current costs of $221,750. When, in addition to what we currently have funded, we need additional $649,580. And then we have the lumber yard with a lower than budget cost there. So in order to make up that difference, we're using about $220,000 of accrued interest in the CIP funds. We had a maximum of about $225,000 available, so we barely got there, but we do have the interest available to make up the difference.
Which was basically ARPA interest, is that right?
Correct. That ARPA's been sitting in our bank earning interest for years now.
Thank you. It's been a good thing.
So if that wasn't enough, we still have 5 more projects scheduled to begin this year. The first is the 4th Street Pump Station reconstruction. This is the second ARPA-funded project. After what is used for the wastewater force main replacement, there will still be an additional about $248,717 that will be needed from the city utility fund to finish that project. That will be coming from next fiscal year's budget. Then there is the master drainage plan to identify future needs, future improvements for stormwater and watershed. This is a grant-funded project, about 90% there. There's currently an RFQ pending for this project as well.
Where's the bottom? Where's the picture on the bottom left?
These were all taken.
The other 3 I can figure out.
Yeah.
Bottom left is Gordon Cummings Road,
Gordon Cummings.
right off of Brown Road.
Okay, yeah.
Bottom right is 11th Street under.
Yeah, I figured that one. I just couldn't figure out the other one.
Yeah, this is all from this year's flood event. Then we have the water and wastewater line replacement. This is a CDBG funded project. Original estimated cost was $778,000. We increased that by about $150,000 for inflation. That has not been bid out yet, but we are expecting it to be somewhere around that $928,000 range. We currently have funded $428,310. We will need to provide that additional $150,000 that we expect those bids to come at.
And we thought we'd see some work on that, Dan. When do you think that'll kick off? You think it'll be this summer? I mean, it's just a slow process. It's not anything we control.
Administered by the PRPC, so we're at their pace. They furnish all the documents and all that.
Then we have the Hunsley Park restroom improvements. This restroom is in poor condition. It has been in need of replacement and renovation for some time. It is a project that is included in this current year budget and something that many people are very excited to get started on.
Now, discussions on that just today, we've had multiple discussions, so we're trying to get that going.
And then the final project that is scheduled to begin this year is the downtown alley reconstruction. It's an alley between 16th and 17th Street. You can see in that picture all those power lines sticking up there along that building. If you look a little bit further south of where that picture's taken, the pavement's in poor condition. This would really improve just the visual aspect of that alley. I know personally I park at a parking lot just to the east there when I'm attending square events and walk down that alley quite a bit and see all those things.
I attend a meeting tomorrow at 10 a.m. in Plainview on that, as far as those grants, getting them going and what that process is, so we're close on that.
So those are our current year projects. We are also working on, as I mentioned, that facility planning project, which is coming to an end, and the group is meeting to decide projects. This next slide shows some of those potential projects. The burn house rebuild, this facility is necessary for the training of our firefighters. A construction bid was, we accepted bids a couple years ago. The actual results came in almost double what we had originally budgeted for, so that's why that was originally canceled, but the need is still there. The main fire engine replacements, we have an estimate about $925,000 for that piece of equipment. April of next year, new regulations from federal regulations and EPA emissions requirements, that cost is expected to go up about another $90,000. If we place the order before those regulations go into place, we can avoid paying the higher price. And right now, the timeline is you place the order, it takes about 46 months before the order is fulfilled, at which time a payment would be required.
You said 46?
46, so over 3 years.
Not 426, yes.
Yes, so if we place the order, say, January, we would need to have the cash available to pay for that in 3 years. Then there's the main fire station expansion. Early 2026, we're expecting our full-time staffed response team. And as of right now, we don't have a place to house them. One plan would be to move staff into what's currently one of the bays, move some equipment to Fire Station 2 or Fire Training Facility, which then those two facilities would need to be renovated to accommodate that as well.
You all have seen that. We've discussed that previously.
Other things being considered, potential new police station or new expansions for their needs, or expansion or remodel of the City Hall building. I welcome any questions y'all may have about capital improvement plan or any projects we have included.
It's a good list.
I know
So the golf course, is there gonna be any left for the golf cart?
Not sure yet. I'll know, we should be going out for bids on tanks, within the week. So that's gonna set a cost there. I've got electrical costs and some other things to figure out. I'm not sure yet. We'll see. We were able to negotiate a little bit on the irrigation system, so we've been able to save a little money there. We'll just see where we end up, Gary. It's kind of it's a moving target till I can get all the pieces together, because there's so many pieces. It's not one person it's not a contractor doing all the work, so we're trying to figure all that out. But Adolfo's kind of really leading that charge with me, and that seems to be coming together. I hope so. I don't know. We'll know. It'd be great if we did. And we were able to get because we got such a good rate, it did enable us to get all the money. You know, if we'd have had a higher rate, then we wouldn't have been able to take as much money. So that puts us that much closer, I hope. You know, that's a goal. And we know, many times things appear on CIP list because some things are projects that you're working on right away, and some things are projects that you may not get to for several years, or you may not ever do. And so oftentimes CIP lists can be confused by people that aren't really in tune with those. So our goal is pretty much everything on our list are things that we need to do, but we also know that there are things that are way down on the list that we don't need to do nearly as quickly, or we may not ever get to because the commission may change their mind, or we may go a different direction. But a CIP list is a great list to follow, but know that it's not set in stone until you all set that project in stone. Yes. It seems to confuse people at times.
I think it sounds like we do have something to bring to the commission for too long on brick streets.
Yes.
That's one I had a comment from a citizen.
Yeah, I think you'll see that within the next two commission meetings. You'll see a plan.
Chris was going to bring that, but with that water main break, it really took the rest of his time.
Thank you, Bo.
No action.
Thank
you.
Thanks, Bo.
Questions?
Great, thank you, Bo. See you later.
All right, very good. Yeah, I think it really does help, it's huge to have that CIP and just be that intentional on all too. Something we
Everything-
didn't have early years.
No, everything we're doing, Gary, is trying to, even from Lucas's housing projections, everything we're trying to do is get lists, because we know that things fall off the table. We forget things, you all forget things, you all change out, we change out. But the more we can develop plans and develop lists and those kind of things, CIP plans, those kind of things, we're able to keep them in front of you and keep them in front of us.
I'll add also, those are components to the long-range planning that we talked about earlier.
It's a big
All of
part.
those things help us with a bond rating. It all circles back to money.
Part of that.
Yes.
All right, takes us to item number 17, executive session pursuant to 551.071, consultation with attorney, 551.074, board appointments, Board of City Development, Construction Advisory and Appeals Board, Canyon Area Library Board, Planning Zoning Commission, Parks, Open Space and Recreation Advisory Committee, Zoning Board of Adjustment, Main Street Advisory Board, 551.087 deliberation regarding economic development, and 551.072 deliberations on real property. And with that, I have 6:47, and we will